Welcome to The Work of Warriors, a podcast dedicated to bringing mental wellness to the entertainment industry. I'm your host, Kim Rapach. This podcast is dedicated to the artists we've lost to mental health, addiction, and suicide, and to those who are still suffering in silence.
Hi.
Hi, Eliana.
How are you?
I'm good. It's so good to see you. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing well.
I have been excited since summer to have this conversation with you.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. I've been so just busy with homework and clubs and everything, but yes, thank you for
No
having me.
worries. Absolutely. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
So we met at you did a fashion show at an art exhibit in Chicago. And I was wondering if you could just tell our listeners about what that event was and a little bit about the organization
Yes.
and where it was at and all that good stuff, because that's how I found you. I was there with my son who had an exhibit and we were checking out everybody else. And so that's how I found you. But before we jump into that, would you just tell our listeners a bit about what that exhibit was?
The name of the event was 21 Minus, and it was curated by the Teen Creative Agency at the Museum of Contemporary Art in Chicago. So thankfully, that was my second time doing that show, and hopefully I'll be able to do it for a third time until I turn 21. And yeah, so it's just a great place. They get usually about, I think, like 30 to 50 artists under 21, and everyone just curates different shows and performances and just different pieces that they want to showcase. So the theme of that one was love and liberation. And so I was able to hold a fashion show with my work, and I had, I believe, 5 models. Yeah, 5 models. And my theme was just love and liberation. So just like exploring different feelings of love. So mine was called The Embodiment of Love.
It was amazing. So I don't think you know this because I didn't introduce myself until probably half an hour after, because everybody wanted to talk to you and congratulate you and tell you how amazing your fashion show was. But when I saw all the models walking, there was such a beautiful representation of humans and diversity, and I just wept. I just cried. I was just so moved and just had so much hope for our future.
Thank
in
you.
what you produced. And it was beautiful. And as I just sat there, drying my tears, I think one of my family members, I think my husband, leaned over and said, "Why don't you introduce yourself and ask her to be on the podcast?" And I'm like, oh my gosh, what a great idea. Yes, yes, yes. Because the whole point of this is, to invite all artists to have a space to just be where they don't have to necessarily produce anything, but they can be seen, because it's such a common theme for artists who they do feel deeply and they are trying to make such a change in the world, right? Through their gifts, through their art. And so this space is for you. And you talked about love, and I just felt, through the entire exhibit, but you were the keynote speaker, and just how you talked about love and gratitude and hope for our future. It was very moving. And I just would like to ask you, like, what inspires you? What inspires you about love, about mental health, about artists? Like, this is your space to just express yourself without having to put on a show.
Well, thank you, number one. All of my models helped me write that speech right before we went out. So we were in the dressing room, like writing down my speech, and like I knew what I wanted to say, and like, yeah, I don't even remember what I said. I have it in some journal somewhere. But I like couldn't find the words to like formulate what I was feeling and what I was doing when making these pieces. And so I think honestly what really inspired me the whole time was like my models, because I handpicked every single model that I wanted, and I've met them each in different places, or some I hadn't met before, but like I had them on Instagram for a long time, and I was just like, you're going to be perfect for my show. And so with that, I like created pieces that I thought would look great on them, and something that I've also wanted to create. And I was challenging myself in different ways of like sewing fabric together that like I've never done before, and I'm self-taught. So I've never had any like formal training on how to sew and make pieces. So that was like a really big experiment over the summer. And I always procrastinate. So it took me about a month to do everything. Yeah, so I was very proud of myself for that. But anyways, so I think in general, I'm very inspired like with my friends and my family. And I am a second year in college. I go to the University of Illinois. And since coming here, I've definitely learned a lot more just about myself and about my relationships. And like those have been very important to me. And I think I've always taken a lot of love from others for granted because you never realize like how many people are actually there for you and supporting you until you like really, really need it. And there's been a lot of times in my life that I have really needed that support. And it's taking me till now to realize, wait, there's been so many people there for me. And so that's been very inspirational. So I was always thinking of like mostly my family, but like also friends that have been there and shown up in every which way, you know? And I also love to support my community and my environment as well. And so like going deeper, I think I've grown a lot in the past few years. I'm 20 years old. But I have been going to therapy since the 8th grade. So at 13, I'm an only child. Lots of, um, lots of fun facts, but I'm an only child. And at the age of 13, my parents split up. And that's not something that I like ever imagined at all. And at first it was very great. Like we still had family dinners and it was fine. And they were very great co-parents. And once I turned 15, they stopped communicating completely. So like now I can't have my parents in the same room. At my fashion show, they were standing super separate, like apart. They don't speak to each other. And that was like a lot for me to work through. And I know it's been, a lot for them too. It was always the three of us. But just in therapy, learning, how other people interact with the world and like their people. And now yes, they're my parents, but I see them as people. And so now my goal is just to learn what I feel and what I need for myself and be able to set those boundaries, but also remind myself that I am okay and that everything will be okay. And so, I finally got into a point. My therapist told me, she was like, I'm so proud of you. And I was like, why? And she was like, because now you can actually see a problem, find out what's going on, go through what other people may be dealing with their emotions and regulate your own emotions and like know what you have to do from there. And she's like, you don't really need me anymore. And I was like, ah. And like, I still talk to her because, like, we have great conversations and there's always stuff that comes up that I need to vent about. It's just been a lot of like learning lessons and also dealing with like friendships. And I think there's always hard things in our life that we go through, and we always put so much energy into that and think about the negative. And I always forget to remember again who's there for me and like actually the positive things in life. And like, I'm so grateful to have the life that I do. I have so many opportunities. I have just so much love in my life. So that's something that I've been trying to like remind myself as much as possible.
It's such a great reminder. First of all, thank you for your authenticity, because it would be easy to assume, listening to the keynote that you gave, it would be easy to assume that you have this perfect life and these perfect parents who taught you how to love so well, and that you haven't had any adversity because of how you carry yourself. And because of, it wasn't about, look what I did. It's about, look at the world and look at how much love there is. And when we love each other well, right? And that, you're so young, it's easy to assume, it would have been easy to assume that you just had this easy life and just full of love and everything was going great. And here you are saying, like, my parents were at opposite ends of the patio because they can't be in the same room together. Like, the way that you have brought love out of that situation, I think that really defines what we talk about on this podcast as a warrior, because you are taking care of yourself so that you can navigate the world from a place of, self-love, kindness, peace, understanding, not making assumptions, and what I hear is gratitude, right? So thank you for that, because I would have never guessed. I try
Mm,
not to make assumptions,
yeah,
but sometimes it's hard. But I would have never guessed that that would have been the situation you were carrying that day.
thank
So
you. I
yeah,
think
thank you.
it's always hard to like, the more I talk to people, the more I have relationships with people, I'm able to realize everybody goes through something. Like, everybody's carrying things with them, and you never know what it is. And so, like, I think especially through, like, my Instagram posts and, all of that, like, I think I portray myself as this, like, "Oh, I just take pictures and that's it," and, like, that type of person, and I try to seem like I'm very put together, but a lot of times I'm not, and that's also okay, and
Yes.
I get flustered with things, and I have horrible anxiety, but at the end of the day, that specific day of my fashion show was one of the best days that I have had. It was an amazing day, and I was just so happy to, like, see everything come to life. And I think something else I did carry with me before my speech, the reason the show started a bit later than it was supposed to, it was, like, off by, like, 5 minutes, was because I told everybody, I was like, "Wait," I was like, "I don't see my dad." And I thought that he didn't show up to my show.
Mm.
And so I was very emotional, and I, like, told everyone, I was like, "Wait, can we wait, like, 5 minutes, please? Like, I don't see him." And that's something that, like, was a big thing in, my father and I's relationship, was that I always, like, question if he's gonna show up. And so then finally somebody, one of the producers, looks behind and they're like, "Oh, that dude looks pretty cool. He has a shirt that says 'awesome' just like my daughter." And I turned around and it was my dad standing right there. And he
Oh, I
wore
have
that shirt.
goosebumps.
Yeah, yeah. He wore that shirt because I bought it for him for Father's Day, which was the day afterwards. And I wanted him to wear that to my show. And so after that was I took a deep breath and I was like, "Okay, like, we can start now." And regardless, I was gonna push through if he was there or not, but, still things carrying with me. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but it was nice to see. I didn't think it was gonna be that big of a crowd. I was worried the whole day that no one was gonna show up, and the
It
news
was
was
such a
there
great crowd.
apparently. Yeah, and everyone's, like, face was just so ecstatic to see my work, and, like, I just loved that so much, and, like, I wanna curate so much more and do more things. And it gets difficult because I am in school, I am in 3 clubs, I'm, a full-time student, so it's difficult to keep carrying out with my business because I usually make custom orders, but I've stopped that recently because I just realized I don't have time, and I want to sit on the couch and watch Dance Moms with my roommate because that's my favorite thing to do in the world right now. So,
I think that's beautiful.
yeah, and, like, this is the only time that I'm gonna be able to do that. I'm in college right now, I don't have a job. Oh, I have a job,
Yeah,
but I don't consider it like I have a job because it's fun.
sure. Sure,
And,
sure,
like, when else am I gonna be able to wake up at 10 o'clock, make breakfast, and not have class all day?
sure.
Like,
Yeah,
that's literally my day today. So,
yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for taking time to be here.
yes, of
Um,
course.
so I want to back up a little bit. So you have this successful fashion show. It's your second one.
Mm.
You get great feedback. All the models get great feedback. Everybody's just it was just one of those experiences that's just what art does, right? It brings people together. It gives you hope. Everybody feels like they're, just madly in love with each other and want to meet each other and get to know each other. Um, did you experience any of like the fall afterwards where like you have this excitement and all the, adrenaline is going? Did you experience it all where like, oh, life is back to reality? Or were you able to just carry that forward and keep it with you? Because sometimes we're like, we want this big successful thing, but then we get dropped back into reality and we think there's something wrong. So I'm curious about your experience.
I think I was able to carry that with me, for a while, at least for the rest of the day. I was super excited.
Okay.
So, the boy that I was dating at the time, who is now my boyfriend, he
He is?
yes, he is my boyfriend
Okay.
now. We had only been going out for 3 weeks at the time of the fashion show, And I knew he really wanted to go, so I invited him. But then I was like, oh my God, he has to meet my mom if he goes, because I know she's gonna go up to him and say something. And my mom was actually in Hawaii the whole week before the show, so she hadn't seen anything. She didn't know anything about it. Like, she didn't see the final product. And so my boyfriend now, he was there the night before and he steamed every single garment. Every single thing for me. It took like 3 hours
Wow.
while I was finishing my outfit, because I made my outfit the night before. So,
Of course you did.
yes, of course, procrastination at its finest. And so, he showed up to the show and he met my whole family, which I didn't even think about, and they invited him to dinner, and I was like, "Oh my God." So we all go out to dinner, but, like, it was fine, and then, me and him and I went to Summer Smash after that, the festival. But we didn't go inside. We sat on the hill outside of Summer Smash, and you can see the main stage. And so we watched the main performer, like, as a picnic after that show. And I was like, oh my God, like, this is just the perfect day. Like, it was so much fun. And the next day I woke up and I just felt even more motivated to create. And, like, I just felt kind of whole, if that makes sense.
Mm,
And
yeah.
it was just very inspiring, especially, like, the words I got from people there, and, just knowing that it's been stressful for the past month and a half, and obviously I've been working on the show for even longer than that, because with the museum, you have to put out how many models do you have? Where do you want the runway? Like, what's going on? And they give you free creative liberty. So, like, you just have to do everything. So yeah, that was just like, just feeling like I did it and I can take a little bit of a break now, because I had been stressing so much for the past couple days. So yeah, that was that. And now, looking back on it, um I have been making my portfolio recently, so I'm able to look at those pictures. Um and yeah, I am eager to create more this summer and hopefully do that show again.
Awesome. Well, I think sometimes, I mean, especially artists, but I think all of us, especially artists, can get wrapped up, like their identity can get wrapped up in their gifts, in their work. And so they can feel on top of the world while things are going really well.
Mhm.
And while you're leading up to the concert or the fashion show or, the book signing, whatever it might be. But then afterwards to have like this depression
Yeah.
of, okay, that's over. And I'm not necessarily hearing that from you, which also gives me hope because you're young, and that's we want to teach everyone, right, that our worth is not tied into what we're producing. It's in how we show up in the world. It's who we are, how we love ourselves, how we love each other. And so I just wanted to know about your process. So thank you for sharing that. And
Of
it sounds like a
course.
really magical day that you probably will carry with you forever.
Of
Yeah.
course. I do have some more words to speak on that. I think that,
Yeah.
like, I do separate myself from my art a lot. And that may sound, like, kind of odd, because a lot of people don't do
No,
that.
say more.
But I think, like, in my life, so my whole life, from when I was 3 until I was 15, I was a dancer. So ballet was, like, my thing. Um, from age 13 to 15, I was at the Joffrey Ballet. I thought I was gonna, like, make it big. And, I got Achilles tendonitis when I think I was 13, about 13, and I had it, like, for a while, and it happens in both of my Achilles. And so I kept going to the doctor. I was in boots for a while, I was in crutches sometimes, but they said, they were like, "If you continue to do point, your Achilles is gonna rip, and, like, you're not gonna walk." And so I still did it anyways. And then it just kept getting worse and worse, to the point that, like, I would walk and it would just ache. And, like, it's like this, like, strenuous tension, like, it feels like someone is, like, clawing at your Achilles. And
Well, fun fact, my dear, I'm in a boot right now for Achilles tendonitis
really?
right now.
Oh
So
my god,
I feel it. Yeah.
that's not
Yeah. I
exciting
can't
at all.
imagine having it in both sides in two boots and crutches. But yeah,
He Thank you for relating to
I
me,
hear
because a
you.
lot of people don't
Yes. Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, so I couldn't dance anymore because I was dancing on point. I was dancing over 20 hours a week. And so
Wow.
they were like, well, like, I don't know what to tell you. And so by my 15th birthday, this was right before COVID, I decided that I didn't want to do it anymore. And also, it took me until coming to college and writing a 10-page essay on it on why ballet is actually bad for mental health. I did not
Wow.
like think about it. And I've been, in many environments and scenarios. I've seen my friends go through eating disorders. I've seen us like compare bodies in the mirror. And very honestly, I gained 20 pounds when I came to college, which
Mhm.
it does not look like I gained 20 pounds,
Mm-mm.
but it was a lot. And that was a change for me. And my body had not changed since I was 12 years old, even like all through high school. And so I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I just like see this change and I'm happy. Like I was honestly very, very happy with myself. But sometimes you still go with those feelings that you look back at yourself and you're like, oh my God, what is going on? But I remind myself, I'm growing up and that's okay. But it took me a long time to realize that I seek for validation from others because in ballet, you can only do what your teacher says it's right. And unless they tell you it looks good, it doesn't look good enough. And I look in the mirror for a very long time because you're looking at a mirror for 4 hours at a time, wearing literally nothing but a leotard and tights, and just comparing yourself to other girls. And so the last day that I was in class, my teacher lined us up from best to worst dancer. And I was not towards the front. And though she didn't say that, she didn't say those words exactly. You know in the class who's good and who's not. You like everyone knows, they make a mental note and it's a mental game, you know? And I
Yeah.
still have so much love for ballet. I go to class when I can. Um, but I can never do point again, which is really sad because I loved
Mhm.
it and that was my whole life. And so that's why I started like creating clothes after that is because I was bored and I needed something to do. So I just looked at YouTube videos and, started sewing. But regardless, my whole family doesn't know I make clothes unless I like tell them because I stopped being close with them by the age of 13 when my parents
Wow.
separated. And so everybody still calls me like la bailarina, so like the ballerina, because that's what they know me
Mm.
as. And even in college, no one knows I make clothes because unless again I tell them or they like know me more closely and we've had a conversation about it because I've just kind of not shared that as much because I've stopped making orders at the moment. So, closer friends know that I do fashion shows and all of that. But the club that I'm in didn't know that I made clothes until 2 weeks ago when there was an entrepreneurship panel and they had me on the panel speaking about my business. And everybody was like, "Oh my
Which you
God."
started at age 15, by the way.
Yes. Yes, I did. Which, I didn't think it was, like, that serious. I was just like, "Oh, whatever, I'll sell clothes." Like, "Sure." 'Cause every all my friends kept wanting things, and then it just got bigger and bigger, and I will say some of my biggest supporters were from my high school because
Mm.
we had fashion shows at school, and, you know, all of the grade would be models, and, like, I would be a vendor and an organizer and a model and, like, a designer, which modeling your own clothes, I would say, is one of the best feelings in the world.
I can
'Cause
only imagine.
yeah, so much fun, and, like, I was able to help choreograph all the models, and, like, they're all my friends. So much fun, and, like, I've had my high school auditorium before has, like, chanted, like, everyone says EVC because like, that's the name of my company, so they'll just chant, like, "EVC, EVC." That was cool. I will say that. But anyways, so in college, I'm an advertising student, and that's what I'm working towards. And everybody questions it, like, "You're not a fashion design student?" And I'm like, "No." because I don't want that to like consume my whole life. And I feel like I would burn out. And just like dance, I felt in a sense I did burn out. And I don't want that to happen with clothes. So I keep it more as like a hobby. And so I feel that every section in my life, yes, it is like me, but I do keep my identities sort of separate, at least, in whatever space I'm in. So some people know me as a dancer, some people know me as a creative. And right now I'm a student. And so I think to me, that's how I haven't felt that sort of like putting all of my life into my art, because to me it's a hobby, and like I make it when I want to make it, and there's times I'm super stressed about it. But I've just really learned that it's okay to have my own life and do that when I want to do it, because at the end of the day I am my own boss. Though, yes, I may be losing money by telling people no. If I don't have the capacity to make something for somebody, then I'll tell them, hey, I'm available in the summer. So come back.
I'm so glad that you talked about it though, because what I'm hearing is you're a 20-year-old student with a clear career path, an awareness of a creative, dance path that you had, the repercussions of that, and also you have a gift and a flair that you reserve for your own, with your own boundaries. You do it when you want. And the reason that's so important, and I think so many artists miss this, and the fact that you're so young and you get it early in the game is going to change everything for your future. Because what I'm hearing at 20 years old, you're not willing to sacrifice your mental health to run a business or
Yeah.
to bring your art into the world. And I just say, hallelujah, amen to that.
Thank you.
I mean, on a very serious note, we know of artists that we've lost
Mhm.
because they didn't have that boundary. And it is a tragedy. And so the fact at 20 years old, you know that I can create something for you in the summer, but right now I don't have the capacity. Whereas we live in a world that's conditioned us that the hustle and the grind is the way to go, right?
Yeah.
And we see that it doesn't end well. And so if we lose ourselves to our art, to our craft, to our business, whatever it may be, it doesn't end well. And then everybody loses. And so I just want to say how much I love and honor and respect your knowing, your self love, and your boundary, because that definitely is the definition of a warrior.
Thank
Good job.
you. Thank you for your
Yeah.
affirming words. And
Yeah, absolutely. So EVC is your company that you started
mhm,
at 15,
mhm.
that you obviously have healthy boundaries around. But do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do and how that started?
Yeah, so my name is Eliana Veronique Cano. So ABC are my initials. Pretty cheesy, but I have a tattoo actually of my logo.
Oh,
Um,
it's beautiful.
Thank
It's
you.
beautiful.
So my logo is because again, I was 15, so this is like pretty cheesy.
Sure.
But so since the 4th grade, every night, every Tuesday night, my parents and I would watch Dance Moms because I had a break from dance on Tuesdays, and that was our show. Anyways, at the time, there was still commercials. We watched cable. It was great. And so they had just come out with with like the slogan "Every kiss begins with K" from K Jewelers, and they had this like little heart-shaped necklace, and it was like the infinite heart. And so after that, I always drew that on my paper. Like at school, like in 4th grade, I don't know why, I would grab markers and draw on people's wrist. And they were like, wait, draw it on me, draw it on me. And I would draw the little logo on their wrist. And which I did not realize until after I got my tattoo, and I like really reflected on that. But yeah,
You're like, wait a minute, this feels familiar.
yeah, I was like, wait, why? But yeah, so that was the reason for my logo. I've just always been drawing that little symbol, and like obviously it's infinite love. So
Oh,
beautiful.
well,
But
I don't think that's cheesy at all. I think it's beautiful.
thank you. But yeah, so then at 15, I again had stopped dancing and I had a sewing machine. So in third grade for a week, I took a sewing class. And it was like literally just a little boot camp. It was like with another friend of mine. And that Christmas, my parents bought me a sewing machine. Now, as most third graders, I of course didn't use it ever after that, you know.
Yeah.
So I had it in my closet and I was like, okay, I need to make something like whatever. So I brought out my sewing machine and I started just reworking clothes that I had in my closet. So just things that I didn't want anymore, I like was reworking because my parents would say if I get new clothes, I have to get rid of some clothes. So I was like, okay. So I started redoing it and I started posting it on my Snapchat story. And my friends were like, "Oh my god, can you make me clothes?" And I was like, "No, that's weird." Like I was like, "No, like that's too much pressure to make clothes for other people." So then I just kept doing that and posting different outfits, and I started wearing my outfits out. And after that, it was, I remember very vividly, it was during COVID at this time now. And so this was my freshman year. And one of my friends at the time, his name's Michael Haywood, I will say that. But he texted me and he was like, "Hey, like you really need to start a business." He was like, "I know you don't want to, but like you just need to." He was like, "Because you're doing great, you're making clothes, you can make money off of this. Like everybody wants to buy your stuff." And I was like, "Okay, like, I'll think about it." And so right after he sent that text, I was in the car with my parents and I had a little journal and I it's this page in my journal. One day it will be a museum. I will say that this specific journal.
Mm.
I like flipped open the page and it was like new chapter in life, starting a business. And the next page
15
I
years old. Way to
yes.
go, Michael Haywood.
No, and I have not talked to him in a long time. He texts me like once a year and is like, "Hey, how's the business going?" But like I tell people this, but like I don't tell him that he was the reason that like I started a business. So like I really need to let him know that. Cuz he transferred out of my school after that. So we like didn't talk as
Yeah.
much, you know? Um
Yeah, we never know the impact we have on each other just through
literally.
encouragement when we see what's true and we see what's obvious maybe to us that isn't obvious to the other person,
Yes.
to just shine a light on it and
Yeah.
say, "You really have something special here."
Yeah, which was like
We did that.
again, I wouldn't have, thought of that. Like I had no motivation to. Cuz like
Mm.
my whole thing was why would I make clothes for other people when I can just make it for myself? So that was a whole whole thing. But yeah, so I still have the journal and then I started drawing out the logo. And this was always the logo. This was like that was it. There was no other draft. And so my dad actually got it. He took a picture of it and sent it to a graphic designer and got my logo made for me. And so I've used the
Wow.
same one ever since. And I think it's so simplistic, it's so cute, it's very me.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and I have tags of it. I have like the little, yeah, I have a bunch of stuff. I have stickers, a bunch of things. So yeah, so from there, I went to the thrift store and I got $100. I had $100 and I got $100 worth of clothes that I was like extra large clothes. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna strip the fabric from this and make whatever I want. I can show you pictures.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah,
so
but
this
show
is
me.
how I started, was with like these
Okay.
reworking
Amazing.
of clothes. So you can tell they were from the thrift store and so that was like my first introduction to just figuring out clothes. And I was like, you know what, whatever, I'll start an Instagram account and just post it and see what happens. Every single piece got bought. And it was definitely I remember there was one girl who was not a friend of mine who like bought a piece and I was like, "Oh my god." But everybody else was just friends and family, which was like so cute because like they were being supportive and I like 1,000% appreciate that forever. So yeah. So bought out those clothes, then I got another $100 and started reworking things. And I was like, you know what? I'll just put out clothes and whoever wants to buy it can buy it. And so then after that, I had my first fashion show at my school, which was my junior year. I was very excited. And I think there was about like 6 models and they were all in my things. And then after that, I made a bunch of clothes, as many things as I could think of, and I had my first photo shoot. And that was the beginning of my senior year. And oh, sorry, a crucial part. In between that, I was making lots of bucket hats for custom order, and the main thing I was selling was satin lined beanies and hoodies. That was like the main thing because a lot of my friends were like, "Hey, I want a satin lined hoodie. Like, could you make this?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And so I bought a bunch of beanies in bulk. I got all the satin. I would let people choose their colors, and that was my main thing. And I sold over 40 of those. And I had the satin line hoodies as well. So that was like my main business thing. So after that, I was like, okay, like I'm tired of these. I want to do more stuff. So I put out a photo shoot, and the photo shoot was very successful. I'll give you picture references.
Okay.
Um, I was also making masks during COVID. So that was from
Oh,
another
wow.
fashion show that we did. This was me selling my satin mask
Oh,
and satin beanies because I was like, I have so much satin. What else can I do with them? And I was like, okay,
sure.
masks. So everyone had those. Then I got another bulk of like thrift clothes. So I made like those little sweaters.
It's
These
amazing.
went like, this was a reason why now I make tapestry things. I found this huge
So
tapestry blanket
cool.
um, for like $5 at the thrift store, and I made pants out of it. And after that, I ended up selling them for a great amount, I will say, thankfully,
Wow.
years later. And after that, well, I'll get to that. Okay, so this was my first fashion show with
Fun. And
things.
this was at the high school?
Yes.
Okay.
And this was my
Th-
first photo shoot, which one of my friends is the photographer. And after
So
that,
professional.
was more high school fashion shows. And one of my friends, she bought 2 pairs of pants for me and she was like, hey, I loved your tapestry pants. Can you make some for me? And I was like, yeah, of course. And she always knew I would make things for her. And like, I was like, okay, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'll try. She's like, no problem. And I charged her $80 for everything. I was like, I'm gonna just try. And so I started making tapestry pants for her. I made TikToks about it and those blew up. And so people started asking for more orders. And one girl specifically, which thank her, I don't remember her name, but she was a great customer. She goes, hey, I have this idea and I don't know if you would be able to do it. And I was like, okay, what's up? And she was like, can you make a tapestry pleated tennis skirt with my school logos on it? And I was like, I can try. I knew this place. It was this website where they're called what? Woven blankets and fabrics. It's like woven
Okay.
fabrics. Shout out to them. I've ordered from them so much. And you send them whatever design you want, and they will print it out on a blanket. And the quality of their tapestry blankets are very great. So I ordered from them. I designed the whole thing and I gave her different mock-ups. I was like, okay, do you like these logos? She was like, yeah, perfect. I got those and I made a TikTok about it, about me making this skirt. I have not seen anybody else making custom tapestry skirts, like at
Sure.
all.
I'd never
So,
heard of it.
yeah, so I'll show you a picture. So that post blew up, and now that's my main thing of what I do. So they're for different like colleges.
So cool.
And so people will be like, hey, like I want this design, and they'll send me their custom measurements and I'll make a custom order for them. So
Wow.
yeah, and then after or I think before that, after that skirt, I did my first fashion show at the Museum of Contemporary Art, which was last summer. And then I had been making those skirts all of last year, all through summer. And then I did my second MCA fashion show. And yeah, so I have taken a break from making those tapestry skirts just because I've made so many and it gets tiring sometimes, but also because,
Well, and it's not like you can just crank them out. You're making them specific
yes,
to people's measurements, and so that
yes.
takes all the more time. You're not just
And
making it standard small for everyone. Yeah.
yes, which I realized someone told me, we're like, well, why don't you just make, oh, some small, some medium, some large, and like, drop them. But I do like the fact that each one is custom. I
Yeah.
appreciate that because everyone knows that I'm the person that makes custom ones and no one else is going to have the same exact skirt as you. And I
Yep.
try not to use the same design either
Yeah.
for the fabric.
That's
So,
amazing.
yeah. And the thing is, I also realized that I was not getting paid for my time. So, if a skirt is $120, I spend $60 on the fabric, and the rest of it is $60 for labor. It takes me about, well, it used to take like 10 hours. Now it takes about like 5 hours to make everything.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I'm not making that much. I'm making less than
Right.
minimum wage. And I was like, okay, I have to think, is this really worth it for me? But also, I don't want to raise my prices that much because I know who my target audience is, which is college students. So
Mm.
I still want that to be accessible. And I want people to feel good about themselves when wearing something super cute.
Yeah.
So, still trying to figure out that balance and also making a website because I am the one that is in contact with the customers back and forth, sending them pictures, getting the measurements, making everything, packaging, walking to UPS to go ship it because, it's a big campus, so we got to walk everywhere. So I just realized, like, let me reflect on this business model and make it stronger.
Sure.
So, yeah, website coming soon.
Awesome. I love that so
Thank
much.
you. So yeah, that's been my business, and I've had many opportunities to do vendors tables, which has been great. I was able to teach a class on sustainability at the Little Village Environmental Justice Organization, which was really
Wow.
great. And I taught them how to like sew a little bit too. So yeah, so before my business model was a lot more on reworking things, and now it is more, making fashion show pieces. But I appreciate the journey, and like honestly, I never thought I would be here at all. So very grateful for that.
I love that. Good job.
Thank you.
Way to focus on the gratitude.
Thank you.
I think it's easy to get bogged down with the stress of what's next.
Yeah.
Again, we're conditioned to kind of keep moving that goalpost. And when we're high achievers, which clearly you are, like you're driven and you have lots of ideas and you want to bring it all to the world, it's so easy to lose yourself in that, right? It's so easy to say, no, I have to do more. No, I can't have boundaries. I can't sleep. I can't take care of myself. But you're on the right path. You really
Thank
have
you.
good boundaries around it, which is just going to help your own sustainability for the long term
Thank you. I
to
think
be
that
able to
also
do
has
it.
taken a long
Yeah.
time to learn too, because I am a very stressed child. So,
Yeah. So let's talk about that. You
yeah.
said you have horrible anxiety and it does not translate. And it certainly didn't translate the day of your fashion show. So do you want to share a little bit about that?
Thank you. I think so. I am definitely a perfectionist, and I don't know if that stems from ballet or from just me in general. But either way, I just have a lot of anxiety that I carry with me, and that might be either worrying about what's going to happen next, or things aren't perfect, or why am I not in control of this situation. And so I think that's something that I worked on a lot, and I'm not perfect at all. It needs a lot more working on. But my parents always said I've been like that since I was very little. And it's just always that I want everything to be perfect and everyone to do everything how I think it should be done. And I'm like, oh my God. So Yeah, I don't know, but I have been working on it.
Yeah.
And um yeah, I think honestly this semester has been the best that I've felt in life,
Mm.
which is like crazy to
Mm.
say. Obviously besides I was a child, but
Sure.
um I've like felt very great. I have my own apartment now. Very calm life. I don't have that many classes. I'm not really stressed about work. And that's a great feeling. That's like so many people don't have that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think I've been able to just kind of take a s- more slower pace because like in
Mm.
high school I was always doing something. I was always busy throughout my childhood. I was again dancing 20 hours a week. So every weekend dancing, then I have a huge family. So family party every Saturday night, Sunday church, and hanging out with my
Mhm.
cousins and like just never like nonstop. Like in high school, well, seventh, eighth, and freshman year, I was on dance team. Well, I was in dance team in high school. Okay, this was freshman year of high school. Yes, that's what it was. I was on dance team, and so school would end at 3. I had dance team at 3:15. I would leave by 4:30 to make it to dance by 5. Dance would start at 5, so I would eat in the car, change in the car, do my hair, get there, stretch for like literally 2 minutes. Dance would start, and then if the teacher didn't walk in on time, I would literally lay on the floor and like take a nap while stretching. That like close my eyes, and then I would be
Wow.
dancing till 8:30 at night. Get home at 9, do my homework till like 10:30, and then go to sleep and be at school by 9 a.m. So that was like
Wow.
my every single day. And so I feel like it's always been so much and like rapid pace all the time that now I have my own space. I'm able to make my own schedule. I can choose what I want to do. And so my choice is to not do that. So it's
And
felt
why
nice.
why is that? I think it's such an important conversation and so countercultural in so many ways. Why do you choose a slower pace?
I think it gives me more peace of mind and it doesn't trigger my anxiety as much. Because when I have so many things to do, I'm anxious all the time. And there is still days that,
Sure.
I'm very busy. Sometimes on Monday, I have this class from 2 to 5 o'clock. Oh my God. And then I get out and I have 2 meetings back to back. And it's like, oh my
Mhm.
God. Um, but like at least for this semester, I know next semester is gonna be super hectic. But like right now, if I don't have anything tying me down to go out and do something, it's okay to like rest and if I want to rest. And also like just taking into account my friendships. Like I want to spend time with my roommate. And when else are we
Mhm.
going to have time to just sit and giggle and laugh at a TV show and talk about every single thing that's on our mind?
Yeah.
We're not. And
That's
I feel
beautiful.
like I have this time now. So super exciting. And like, I want to go into advertising, and I know that that's going to be a more hectic, lifestyle and like just like the job structure of them. They work all the time. And that's
Mhm.
okay because that's something I'm passionate about. But yeah, it's okay in life right now. So,
But you're not at an advertising agency right now.
yes,
Like you
precisely.
said, you're a student, you're with your friends, you have a roommate. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are some other things that you do on a daily basis to take care of yourself? Do you have any like non-negotiables or just things that you know that you try to do often because they make you feel better or they help with your mental health?
Honestly, I think eating breakfast every morning is like great. I even through like high school through college last year, I am a stickler. I have to eat breakfast. And like I do think that that helps you throughout the day. And so now we have our own kitchen, which is great. Dining hall food is horrible. I'm also pescatarian. So like
Okay.
there was not a lot of options. We were eating potatoes and pasta every single day.
Yeah.
And so now we're able to cook all the time. Today, my roommate actually introduced me to sourdough. I had never had that before. Love.
Really?
It's my favorite. And so like today we made sourdough toasted in butter with aguacate and eggs on the side. And so every single morning we both have time in our schedule to wake up, make breakfast, and enjoy it. And sometimes I get to make pancakes, which is great because I never really got that growing up unless like it was on the weekends because we were always rushing to go to school or rushing to go to work. And
Sure.
so, yeah, my favorite thing, oh, we cook all the time. So we always, sometimes we skip on lunch, we'll have a little snack, but we always cook breakfast and dinner together. And
Nice.
so that's amazing. And like we're able to sit down and enjoy it. And I think that's what I look forward to in the day. And yeah. And I think also I'm paying bills for the first time. So I'm enjoying the space that I pay for.
That sounds wise.
Yeah. But
Like, I'm paying for all this
yeah.
and I'm gonna enjoy it.
Yeah, so and my roommate and I actually will not be roommates next year. So
Oh,
I think that that's why I'm like, we're both enjoying each other's company as much as we can.
you seem like you are really skilled in the act of just being present. Do you practice mindfulness or meditation or anything like that?
Um, I used to, because my parents used to make me do that, because they were like, you need to get it together. But honestly, I think it's easier to talk to people about things than it actually is to remind yourself that in your daily life.
Yeah.
So I
You
think when
just
I
seem
talk,
like you have like this, you keep coming back to present and you
yeah,
keep coming back to what do I have right now and what's happening right now and what do I want to enjoy right now. And that's something that a lot of adults can't figure out. And so that's why I was just wondering like how did you develop that? How do you know how to do that?
I think again, going back to like therapy, I think that's
Mhm.
been the biggest lesson of being present in the now. Um, Honestly, I don't know where this is coming from. I think it's just because we're talking back and forth.
Mhm.
But I do need to remind myself more of that on the daily. I will say that because
Mhm.
I stress over little things all the time and I get super overwhelmed. But when I'm able to talk to somebody and, talk out your feelings and your emotions and where it's coming from, it's a lot easier to say than
Yeah,
practice, But I think there have been times that I practice that in my life. I have my notes app of like running lists of things to remind myself, like, it's okay, just breathe, like, don't worry about everything. And like,
yeah,
so I think though I recently haven't practiced that intentionally, it's still there in the back of my mind and I've worked on it throughout years.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I speak on the four pillars of optimal mental health, and one of them is connection. And I've heard that throughout our conversation, just, from picking your models to making sure your dad's there to, thinking about your boyfriend and his, interaction with your family and your roommate. And when will I get to do this again? I think connection, it sounds like to me, you have a strong draw toward connection to other people, which I do too. I thrive in connection. If I'm connected, I'm good. If I'm not, I'm a mess. Um, but also, you seem really connected to yourself, which is something that I think we're not really taught to do, but is so crucial for mental health. So many of us are looking outside of ourselves for that affirmation. And there's nothing wrong with that as long as you have that yourself. But, if no one's going to applaud for you, are you going to applaud for yourself? And it sounds like you know how to do that.
Thank you. Thank you. Your words
Yeah,
are very kind and very helpful.
good, good. Well, the work of Warriors is on a mission to help artists, practice mental wellness
Mhm.
and to ultimately eliminate celebrity suicide. And so as we talked earlier, we know, we lose a lot of artists who lose themselves to
Yeah.
their craft, their industry, whatever it may be. If someone were listening to this and just thought like, what's the point? Life sucks, whatever. what might be something that, we're not going to replace mental health care, but
Mhm.
what is something you would say to them if they were listening?
Um, Honestly, I know that there is nothing that anybody can ever say that will I mean, there is things that people can say, but I feel like, a lot of the time, everyone is everyone goes through what they go through, and no one else will ever be able to know what you experience. And that is 1,000% valid. But just remind yourself that there are people that care. As much as you feel that there may not be people there and maybe they're not as present as they should be in your life, somebody out there cares. And somebody out there does not want to see you gone. And no matter what, you do have a light in this life. And, you were put onto earth for something. You're not here for just no reason at all, whether that's through art, whether that's being a friend to another person, whether that's just being a neighbor to somebody. You are here for a reason, and you are staying here for a reason. And, like, yes, I understand it may be a very hard time and it's been hard for years, and maybe your whole life has felt that way, but something good will come and it will be okay. So,
I love that so much. That is what I felt like, just what you just said. Like, that's what I felt when I heard your keynote in the
thank
summer.
you.
It just felt like this lightness and this like ease and hope and love. So thank you. It just emulates from you in everything that you say. So thank you for
Thank
that.
you.
The last question I have for you is an easy one. How can people find you and your work and your
So,
passion?
again, website hopefully coming soon. That will be spread out. But my
No
work,
pressure.
you can find me on Instagram at EVC_creations, on Instagram. And yeah, there will be much more to come.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me so, so, so much. You have helped me in so many more ways than you know.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you. I'm glad to hear that. I just appreciate the inspiration that you're willing to share, and I just appreciate how you're doing life and your perspective and your boundaries. And thanks for sharing it with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.